بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين، أما بعد. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Inshallah, I hope everyone is doing well today. I wanted to just talk a little bit about the situation that we are all dealing with, which is, again, I make a point of this almost every week because our situation continues to evolve and in some cases devolve into more randomness, more chaos, things that we think are unprecedented in at least in our lives, they are, for most of us, unprecedented. And it sometimes leaves us hayran, right? It sometimes leaves us um, unable to determine what the right course of action is. And this is acceptable and understandable. We as human beings, we are creatures of habit. We like things to remain the same. We like to continue and go about our days as normal. And when things are thrown off track, then we find ourselves flailing, trying to find a rope to cling on to, a plank of wood in this chaotic ocean that we are flung into. But this is the nature of life. This is the nature of the universe. That it continues to become more and more chaotic. No matter how much we try to put things into order, there will always be those variables which we can never ever have control over. There are constants in life, but for the vast majority of things, they are just variables which we don't have the ability to uh, direct how we so want to. But this is understandable. This is acceptable, and this is something that our faith, which is for most people their bedrock. This is the thing that people hold on to, and this is their pillar that really gives them support in these kinds of times. Our faith really guides us, and not only does it guide us, but it gives us those principles and those overarching rules and guidelines which we can abide by, which will help us get through the most difficult of situations, as well as the mundane and typical boring day-to-day things that we deal with. And now, and I've been very general right now, but so I'll be a little bit more specific that what we are dealing with in particular here in our country and even in our state as well is obviously this health crisis, which is coronavirus pandemic, which even though it's kind of left the mainstream for a little, at least it's kind of been toned down, but the statistics have not. It's continued to spread. It's continued to take the lives of over 100,000 people now have passed away in this country. Many Muslims have also passed away. People that we ourselves are familiar with have passed away as a result of this illness. So this is something that, this is the reason why we're having a Friday reminder online and not having a Jumu'ah khutbah right now filled with hundreds of people in the masjid. Today, inshallah, our masjid is open at San Ramon. And even that, it's very limited. It's a very limited opening. Only 12 people are allowed inside per room. So obviously this has really thrown our lives into a spin, because we are trying to go about our day to day when this has become our new normal. So that's unfortunately, this has kind of become the backdrop now. This coronavirus and us going about our days with just masks on our face, avoiding extra contact, always using hand sanitizer, and even not visiting our family or friends for weeks and months on end, has become the backdrop now to a problem which continues to resurface time and time again, and that is dealing with the stark racial inequality and disparity that this country has unfortunately built its entire legacy upon. This is something that it's a historical fact. It can't be denied. To be perfectly honest, is discrimination against minorities has been unfortunately the foundation of this country. And at least now, this seems to be a different, I guess, uprising, which is really what it is, if we call it that. But though there have been time and time again, I think it was in 19 19, and then there was one in 19. There's two in 1940s, 1965, 1969. There were other protests that happened there in Harlem and in other places as well. Protests over the same issues, that we have now, I guess, read up more on and have been more privy to some of the details about. But these have been recurring problems for the past, century at least, and people have been protesting and have been demanding these issues be addressed for a very long time. So this has now become kind of the hot topic of the day. This is now on the forefront while we are still dealing with a global pandemic in the backdrop. When this is happening, when there's essentially there's chaos everywhere we look, right? From the political system to the economic system to the healthcare system to the social structure. It's obviously thrown our religious structure that we have, the religious institutions that we have also been thrown into chaos. How do we deal? Like, how do we go about our day? Because what is the new normal now? It seems like every week, every day, there's something else coming up. There's something else going on. So I thought I would just take a few moments of your time today to address these things, and I'll do it by way of one verse of the Quran and one hadith. One verse of the Quran and one hadith. And the verse of the Quran is when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala essentially tells us how is it that we go about dealing with injustice, because this is something that we have to speak out against. Now, aside from the fact that we have a moral and ethical responsibility and obligation to do so, we also have a religious obligation to do so. I don't like I don't like to use the words and the phrases where it's like Islam came to get rid of racism, Islam came to give women rights, Islam did not come for to address the ills of the day. Islam came as an entire system of justice, So if we confine it to just whatever is the whatever issue is in vogue that day, then we are really we are limiting the commandments of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the commandments of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and the wisdom of the Prophet, which is obviously very silly to do. It's very silly because the religion of Islam and the commands of the Prophet and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have come from then until the end of time. The end of time. So we can't just say, well, Islam just came to do this. Well, when that problem is gone, then do we say that, well, okay, then we don't have a need for Islam? Obviously not. Obviously not. So Islam, it came as an entire system which addresses all of societal ills, all of the ills of society, all of the illnesses and the difficulties and hardships that people not only find themselves in, but unfortunately inflict upon others. By way of implicit bias, by way of supporting structures and systems which continue to oppress others. And I'm being somewhat vague about this because I don't want to just say that, well, there is oppression going on in our country, because there's oppression going on everywhere. There's oppression going on everywhere. This is something we have to understand, is that oppression does not discriminate, right? The African American community in this country is severely discriminated against. This is kind of a statistical fact. Just like we have our Palestinian brothers and sisters that are being discriminated against, our Uyghur brothers and sisters in China are being discriminated against. Same thing in Syria, same thing in Yemen, same thing in India, same thing in Bangladesh and in Pakistan and in Kashmir and many places in Africa. All of these things are happening, and this is just discrimination. This is just dhulm. This is oppression, right? Oppression does not discriminate, like we said. It doesn't select and pick and choose. Okay, I'm just going to go after one group of people. I'm going to just go after another group. No, it's a rampant issue. It's a rampant societal ill. And this is exactly something that Islam came to address. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in the Quran in Surah Ibrahim, He says, لِتُخْرِجَ النَّاسَ مِنَ الظُّلُمَاتِ إِلَى النُّورِ. He says that we have revealed this book, we have sent messengers, and this is specifically referring to Musa alayhi salam, but obviously we look at the general meaning of the verse, not necessarily the specific point of revelation. We look at the implication of that verse, which is that this revelation, these prophets have been sent down to take people out of darkness and into the light, out of darkness and into the light. So all of these things are forms of darkness. All of these things are layers of darkness, right? Discrimination and income inequality and oppression of minorities, oppression of women, whatever it might be. All of these things and these problems. Obviously, there's sometimes they're more concentrated in one country and less so in others. One problem might be bigger in one place, one more problem might be bigger in another place. So all of these things, Islam has come to address them. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He tells us in a verse in Surah Ma'idah, which is the verse that I really wanted to kind of go into today. wherein he talks about standing up for justice, and he talks about um, how, how it's an obligation, and it's a necessary form of action for each and every one of us. Wherein he subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu, O you who believe. So again, this is one of the rules of the Quran, that when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala uses this phrase, O you who believe, then we know that either he's going to give us a command to do something, or he's going to give us a prohibition to stay away from something. So in this verse, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commands us to do something. So he says, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu, O you who believe, kunu qawwamina lillahi shuhada'a bil qist. He subhanahu wa ta'ala says, kunu, so be. Okay, so now he is telling us to be something, so this is a command. So he says, be persistently standing firm for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, for the sake of God. So this is another thing, right? When people might ask, okay, what are you doing this for? Why are you doing this? Is it because of your organization? Because you have some affiliation with this group of minority or this group of people? You see yourself in them? No, we're not doing. We don't stand up, for I stand up for black people because I'm black. I stand up for Palestinians because I'm Palestinian, or because I'm a Muslim, so I do it. No, we stand up, and we stand up for what is right because of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's it. That is, I believe the strongest foundation, just obviously is God. So what other foundation can be stronger? But this is not something that can be shaken. No one can say that, well, you know what, you're biased, or you're doing this because of you want something out of it, or you're getting some kind of benefit yourself. No, you're doing this simply for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You don't see any material possession coming your way. You don't see you don't get clout, you don't get influence, you don't get paid to do it. None of these things. You don't do it because you know what, we share the same skin color, we share the same, mother country, that's why we're doing it. No, we do it for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that way it keeps us pure in our intention. It keeps us pure in our intention. We're not doing it for any other reason save for God. Shuhada bil qist. Shuhada, shaheed is somebody, is a witness. Shuhada bil qist. You are witnesses in justice. Basically, you stand up for justice. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he leaves it, kind of, this is somewhat ambiguous, right? If you just say shuhada bil qist, those people, they are witnesses in justice, bil qist. And that ba here, there's a long discussion about what that ba can be translated and how it can be determined. But it's essentially, the general meaning of this is just that we stand up for justice, whether we see it happening, or whether we see injustice happening here or not, or whether it's, in vogue today that, what, everyone is protesting, so let's go and protest as well, or, what, it's going to be a year from now when no one's really talking about these kinds of issues and these kinds of problems. We are still there. We are still making our voices heard. وَلَا يَجْرِمَنَّكُمْ شَنْآنُ قَوْمٍ عَلَىٰ أَنْ لَا تَعْدِلُوا. And then he subhanahu wa ta'ala, he says that do not let the hatred of another group of people, do not let people discourage you. Do not let people discourage you from doing justice. So this is obviously in our country more so than in many other places where the media has a very, very, very influential role in just public policy, social policies, and things like that. He subhanahu wa ta'ala says, do not let your hatred for a group of people, do not let your personal feelings, or do not let their personal feelings influence you into not doing justice, to being unjust. To basically, I don't want to say something because I don't want to get attacked by God knows who, right? I don't want to become, the target of a smear campaign, or, I'm just going to stay silent. I'm going to stay out of the fight, something like that. This is unfortunately, actually, this is something very fortunate. People have been calling others out that, if you don't speak up, silence is complicitness. If you're silent, you're complicit. Because you're allowing this one to continue. You're not speaking up, and you're not making your voice heard. And we want to leave a legacy, obviously, for our friends and our family and things, and we don't want to be those people who sit on the sidelines and just watch things unfold. And I believe this is a quote attributed to Martin Luther King Jr., wherein he says, I believe this is a quote attributed to him, where he says, at the end, in the end, we will not remember the words of our enemies, but the silence of our friends. So this is something very poignant if you think about it, because people will always say things that will hurt us and harm us. And that's what our enemies are there for. That's what, people who don't like us, they will always do something to discourage us and to put us down. But when we don't get that support, when we don't get other encouragement from those who are near to us and dear to us, and when, if they're not supporting us or they're actually putting us down, then that is going to have a much more detrimental effect. And if we are those people, if we are not encouraging one another, and if you're not encouraging others who are doing goodness, then those people, they will remember it. Because they will know that you were never there for me at that moment. You were never there for me when I actually stood up for what was right. He subhanahu wa ta'ala, he tells us, he says, don't let, this type of animosity that others might have for you, do not let that stop you from standing up for what is true and what is right. اعدلوا هو أقرب للتقوى. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala then gives another command. He gives a command and he says that do justice. Al-adl is justice. اعدلوا. Do justice. هو أقرب للتقوى. Indeed, it is closest to taqwa. This is the closest form of action that you can do. If you want to attain nearness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then do justice. Be a just person. Be a just person. And he does not say, he does not specify, okay, in what form do you do justice? To whom do you do justice? No, he subhanahu wa ta'ala leaves it open. He leaves it open-ended. Right? So this is in all of our actions. We should continue to be just. Wattaqullah. Wattaqullah. Have taqwa of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Basically, be aware of the presence of God in your life. Inna Allaha khabirun bima ta'malun. Because he subhanahu wa ta'ala, now he kind of scares us here, because he says that indeed Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is khabir. Khabir is obviously from the word khabar, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is very well acquainted and knowledgeable of that which you do. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows exactly what you're doing. Just be aware of that. Be aware of the presence of God in your life, that He will know which side of the coin that you were on, which side of history were you on. And I'm sure many, I believe a lot of people have been quoting this hadith now, especially given our circumstances, where the Prophet ﷺ, he says that فَمَنْ رَأَى مِنْكُمْ مُنْكَرًا فَلْيُغَيِّرْهُ بِيَدِهِ. That the person who has seen evil in front of them, then they should change it with their hands. فَإِنْ لَمْ يَسْتَطِعْ فَبِلِسَانِهِ. And the person is not able, then he should change it with their tongue. They should speak out. فَإِنْ لَمْ يَسْتَطِعْ فَبِقَلْبِهِ وَذَلِكَ أَضْعَفُ الْإِيمَانِ. If he's not able to do that either, then at the least that person should feel that it is wrong in their heart, and that is the weakest form of iman. So people have quoted this hadith often, especially lately, and rightly so, because this is the Prophet ﷺ just explicitly telling us that when you see wrong being committed in front of you, it is your responsibility to change it. It is your responsibility. And he does not specify that, oh, you as a Muslim man, you as a Muslim woman should do it, or if you see him or her, or this type of oppression, that type. No, he just says that which is munkar. Munkar is that which is nakira. The word nakira in Arabic is something that is unknown. Munkar is something that in society, this is considered unacceptable. Like, we don't do this here, that kind of thing. And if you see someone doing that, if you have the capacity to change it, then it is your obligation to change it. It is your obligation to go up there and actually do something about it. And if not, then at least speak up. If you're not physically able to, at least you should say that this is wrong, this is something that you can't do. And the very least thing that a person should do is, at least in their heart, they should know that whatever is going on in front of me, this is wrong. But the Prophet ﷺ, essentially, he kind of gave a warning, right? He says that this is a sign of weakness of your faith, of your belief. That when you look at it and you don't do something, you don't say something, but inside you know that, oh, you know what, this is wrong. This is a form of cowardice. At the end of the day, this is a form of cowardice where the person knows it's wrong, but they refuse to actually stand up and say something or do something, because they would rather protect themselves than protect those who are being trampled upon. So this is one of the verses that I wanted to speak about. And then finally, I just wanted to speak about one hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, where he, because now we've spoken a little bit about actually, standing up and taking action. And I'm not being, specific, because people have, their difference of opinion of how they think action should, be taken. Some people say that financial help, others say that, activism, protesting, others say starting an organization, whatever it might be. It's your prerogative to choose what you think would be most effective. So one thing I really want to talk about was this hadith. How should we as believers operate now in this space, in this time, and in this zamana, in this age that we are living in, where, like we said, a global pandemic which has taken the lives of hundreds of thousands of people is now the backdrop. Like, that's not even our primary concern anymore. Now our primary concern is all of these, the riots and protests and discrimination, inequality, all of these things. That has become the forefront. How do we deal with this? Because it seems like there's so many distractions, so many things going on left and right. And this is something that the Prophet ﷺ has essentially warned us about. He's told us, he says that this is going to happen. These things will happen. He says, ﷺ says, "Badiru bil a'mal." He says, hurry up and do good deeds. He ﷺ gives us good advice, Marian. He says that, you should hurry and race to do good deeds. Sab'ar. And then he actually tells us a number of deeds that you should do. So he gives us a warning. He says, hurry up and do good deeds before 7 things come upon you. Before 7 things come upon you. هَلْ تَنْتَظِرُونَ إِلَّا فَقْرًا مُنْسِئًا. Are you waiting until a poverty that makes you forgetful? a poverty that makes you forgetful. So basically, are you saying that, you know what? Okay, I'll do good deeds. Okay, I'll start praying regularly tomorrow. I'll start reading Quran regularly. Okay, I have to read Surah Kahf on Fridays. Yeah, I'll pick up that habit soon. I have to give charity. Yeah, I'll start giving charity soon. Are you waiting? You know, are you going to keep waiting? Are you going to keep holding off on doing these good deeds? Are you going to keep holding off on praying your tahajjud? Are you going to keep holding on making up your missed prayers? All of these things until the Prophet ﷺ warns. He says, until a poverty comes upon you which makes you forget. And this, if you think about this, that those who are primarily concerned about, I guess, chasing after that wealth or that number that they have in their mind, I have to reach this to be financially stable or something, then that person, that becomes their maqsad, that becomes their goal. That's it, and they forget about everything else. So he ﷺ says that this is a type of poverty which will make a person forget everything else, all of their other responsibilities and obligations. Oh, ghinan mutghiya. He says on the opposite side is a person who has an extreme amount of wealth and an extreme amount of self-sufficiency, where now they feel like, you know what, I don't need anyone, I don't need anything else. And the person feels so taken care of that, you know what, I can take care of myself. And then they leave their prayers, because what is prayer aside from humbling yourself before God? Now that person, because they have so much wealth and influence and power, they no longer feel that they need to humble themselves before anyone. That's a kind of wealth that makes a person a tyrant of sorts. He continues, he says, "Oh, maradan mufsida," or are you waiting for an illness which makes you incapacitated? A illness that makes you an illness that makes you incapacitated, which this is something that unfortunately is becoming kind of the scourge of our time right now, of 2020 at least, is that same illness. And he also says, are you waiting for that illness to come upon you, and then you will no longer have the ability to do the things that you wanted to do anyways? You wanted to pray, and when you were healthy and ready, you didn't pray. And now that you are ill, now you physically cannot pray because you can't even make wudu, you're so sick. And I've had people contact me, they say that, I've gotten such and such operation done, I can't pray like this, how do I pray? Like, I can't make sujood, what do I do? So I tell them, well, okay, then you have to, you have to pray sitting down, and you have to just tilt your head as much as possible. And now the person's unable to even make sajda until obviously the effects of that surgery, the operation have passed on and moved away. So the Prophet ﷺ says, are you waiting for an illness to come upon you where you're not even able to pray like you would have been when you were healthy? And then he says, or are you waiting for old age? Oh, haraman mufnida. Or are you waiting for an old age to come upon you where now you don't even have anything to do, right? You're so elderly that you can't even take care of yourself. Other people have to come and take care of you. And then how will you be able to do all of these good deeds which you have procrastinated from doing? Oh, mautan mujhiza. Or at the end of the day, are you waiting for death to come upon you suddenly? Are you waiting for a sudden death to come upon you? Then what will you do? Because this is something I've had very close people, very close to me, tell me that, I'll look into Islam when I get older. Okay, when I'm older, then I'll start praying. I've encouraged them. I said that, well, your parents pray. Why don't you also pray? I'll start praying when I'm older. Then I'll become more interested. I'll look into religion when I'm married and have kids and everything. And it strikes me as very strange, because it's as if someone has given you the guarantee that you're going to get older. Someone has given you a guarantee you're going to have kids, and you're going to have a family, and you're going to have a retirement fund waiting for you. There's no such guarantee. And time again, we hear story after story after story. And just earlier this week, I heard someone from the community told me about a family friend who had passed away at the age of 21. I mean, he was just a few days shy of graduating from college, and he just passed away. This is maut and mujhiza. This is a very sudden death that has come upon a person, and we should really think, how many things are we procrastinating, thinking that, okay, I'll do it soon, I'll do it soon, I'll do it soon. But all of these things keep coming upon us, which distract us, and they keep us from doing the things that we know we have to do. We know we have to pray. We know we have to give charity. We know we have to go for Hajj. We know we have to fast. These are things we know we have to do. And we know we have to do them because we schedule them in our minds or even on our calendars and say, okay, I'm going to do it. Okay, I'm going to do it. Okay, I'm going to do it when I have the time to do it. But that's the thing. We always have time, but where are we prioritizing that time? What are we doing in the blocks and chunks of time that we have throughout our day? And then he says, Awid Dajjal. Or, aside from all these, are you waiting for Dajjal to come upon you? فَشَرُّ غَائِبٍ يُنْتَظَرُ. He says, he is the most evil of all unseen things that is waited upon. Is that where you're waiting? That, when when I see Dajjal, then I know I'm going to do good. I know I'm going to be a proper Muslim. I mean, this is the greatest test that a person will ever go through, and may Allah protect us from that. And Prophet ﷺ himself used to make dua for this. He encouraged us to make dua that Dajjal, that you never get to see Dajjal. Make dua that that's a fitna that you never get to experience, because he will be the worst and the most detrimental of all fitnas upon a person. And we think that, well, I would never follow someone like that. I would never fall into that. Well, look around the world and see how many tyrants and despots, and even the leader of this country, and how many blind followers and supporters that they have. And even if they spew the most vile things, people still support them. People still support them to their last and dying breath. They will support these people who are horrible people. The Prophet ﷺ says, "Are you waiting for the Dajjal to come upon you so that you're going to start and become a very good person at the end of the day?" And finally, he says, "Oh, as-sa'a was-sa'atu adha wa amar." He says, or finally, are you waiting for the day of judgment? Is that it? That when the final time, like it's like you're procrastinating a homework assignment or a project at work. Okay, I'm gonna do it at the last minute. You just keep holding it off, holding it off. Okay, I have until midnight today, and then it gets to 11 p.m. and then 11:30 p.m. and then you say, okay, now I'm gonna hurry up and do it. Is that when you think that you'll be able to change your life? You're going to be able to do a 180 and turn everything around. And the Prophet ﷺ says that indeed the day of judgment is sudden, and it is very bitter. It's a very bitter thing that will come upon a person, because you will regret it. A person will really regret on the day of judgment. Inshallah, we will not be one of them. May Allah protect us. Ameen. That they will regret that I had the time and I didn't make the most of it. That's it. And those are the kind of people that honestly, we're very limited in the pity that we give people who had opportunities, and they had the time and they had the resources, and they wasted it. And we don't want to be one of those people. We don't want to be the people who had the opportunity and the time to do good, and we had the resources to do good. We had the resources to do the things that we are obligated to do, but we didn't do them, and we didn't stand up for them. So right now, when we have the opportunity to stand up for those who are being oppressed, and those who are being downtrodden, those who are going through hardships and difficulties, now is the time to stand up for them. And oftentimes, we as Muslims especially, we say that Muslims have become the scapegoat. Muslims are being punished and tortured in X and Y and Z country all over the place. Absolutely. Absolutely. And just like we want people to understand our struggles and the struggles of our Muslim brothers and sisters, we should also understand the struggles of others. Because the language of justice is spoken by all. So we should, seek justice for everyone. And now is the time, honestly, that we do what we can in our capacity, in our respect, in our capacity that each and every one of us, Allah Subhanahu wa Taala has given us. We do the most that we can. And each one of us, what He Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam says, لَتَأْمُرُنَّ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ وَلَتَنْهَوُنَّ عَنِ الْمُنْكَرِ. He says, indeed, you will surely command to do good, and you will surely forbid the evil. He Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam does not say whom you will command, nor does He say whom you will forbid. So He does not restrict it, nor does He make it so general and so specific. Rather, He says you should know best. You and I should know best those who are, who will listen to us, and those who we actually have an influence upon. Those are the people that we should try and encourage to do good, and we should keep them away from evil. And this is not like a judgmental kind of thing. Unfortunately, this is kind of a postmodern mindset where, when we say that Islam has come to encourage the good and to forbid the evil, people say that, oh, this is, you're judging us and you're telling me, this is right and this is wrong, and how dare you say this. Actually, we're doing this because, in telling others to do good and stay away from evil, we want what is best for society. We want what is best for people. We're not saying that you're doomed for hellfire. Rather, we're saying that this and this act, or this and this mentality, this is detrimental to people. Rather, here's a good and healthy substitute, and this is something that we should inculcate in our lives. So now is the time when people say that now is the time to, it's a strike while the iron is hot, and that's why everyone's out on the streets and protesting. In the same way, right now, when you and I have the time and we have the physical capability to pray, to give our sadaqah, to give our zakah, to go to the masjid. Alhamdulillah, the masajid are opening up slowly, to go for umrah and hajj. Inshallah, the opportunity will come to us. All of these things, now when you have the opportunity and the time, take it. Because there's no guarantee that it will come back tomorrow. There's absolutely no guarantee that it will be there for us tomorrow. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give you and I the ability to make the most out of whatever He has given us, all of our resources, all of our time. And may He subhanahu wa ta'ala make us mukhlis. May He make us sincere in the things that we do. This is why at the very beginning of the verse, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, كُونُوا قَوَّامِينَ لِلَّهِ. That, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, كُونُوا قَوَّامِينَ بِالْقِسْطِ لِلَّهِ. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala Afwan. He says, "I'm كونوا قوامين لله." Yeah, he says that, stay steadfast for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So that's it. We are not doing this because somebody is paying us. We're not doing it because I'm gonna get likes on my Instagram, or I'm gonna go viral on Twitter or something. No, we're doing this because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants us to do it. And we know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commands the good and He forbids us from evil. So it is our responsibility. Just as much as it is a moral responsibility, it is also a religious obligation and duty for every single Muslim to stand up for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Not for the sake of him or her or for this group or that group. We're doing it because God has made us khulafa fil ard. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made us responsible on this earth. He has given us responsibility. Then is now that it's now is the time to actually stand up for that responsibility, and to stand up for what is right, and to do what is good. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept from us, and may He continue to give us tawfiq. وآخر دعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين جزاكم الله خيرا والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. And on one final note, inshallah, San Ramon Masjid is now open for Fajr, Maghrib, and Isha. We do have a limit of the amount of people who can enter the masjid, so it'll be on a first come, first served basis. So please do try and come, inshallah, if you have the ability to. وآخر دعوانا الحمد لله رب العالمين. السلام عليكم.